Hey, what's up? My name is Catherine. For those of you who don't know who I currently am studying photography at Parsons School of Design and have been freelancing photography for a couple of years or so. And I've been getting a lot of DMs on Instagram lately, just like any advice I have for beginner photographers and what camera I think people should buy and stuff like that. So I did a little Instagram poll, and I was like, hey guys, do you want to see me do a series of my advice for beginner photographers? And most people voted yes, so this is the start of my series. Also, shameless plug, follow my Instagram. I'll put it in the description box down below. It's at yourgirlcath. Anyways, this is part one to that series. This is my official beginner's guide to photography, and this segment is what camera should I buy? Because that's also like probably the most common question I get. If you're sitting there and you're like, I already have a camera, I just have no clue how to use it. Don't worry, that segment is coming. So you've decided that you want to buy a DSLR camera. And if you're like, what is a DSLR camera? I will tell you, it is a digital single lens reflex camera. Have no clue what that means? Yeah, I don't really... It means there's one lens, it's digital, it's not film, not that important. Basically, you're buying a camera body and you can change out the lenses to do a bunch of cool different stuff that you probably don't even know what it is yet if you're watching this video. The main thing, or like the big battle with buying a camera, is cropped versus full frame. Cropped versus full frame is the difference in size of the sensor. So I'm currently shooting with a full frame camera, and that's the equivalent of shooting on 35mm film, for those of you who know anything about shooting with film. A crop sensor is about 25% of the size, roughly. It kind of depends on the camera make. 25% of the size of a full frame sensor. And if you're a beginner to photography, what's the biggest difference between the two of those going to be to you? And that's going to be the price tag, honestly. The difference in price between Nikon's entry-level cropped frame sensor camera and full frame sensor camera is $1,000. That's a lot of money. The D3-400 is about $500 and the D610 is $1,500. Big price jump, especially if you're just starting out, not really sure if you want to stick with this photography thing. Yeah. The size of your sensor will affect the focal length, it will affect how much light is let into the image, and it just affects how the lenses behave. So for example, a 50mm lens, get into that a little bit later, on a crop frame camera will perform about the same that an 85mm lens would perform on a full frame camera. And I'm sorry, I'm trying to dumb this down as much as possible. I've just been in the photography world for so long that so much of this is second nature to me. So if I'm explaining anything and you're like, I have no clue what she's talking about, leave me a comment. I'm so happy to talk to you guys and clarify anything up. Trying to make this as simple as possible without making the video too long. So I'm gonna just pop up on the screen here. I took a picture on my Nikon D3200, which is a crop sensor camera, and my Nikon D750, which is a full frame sensor camera. Just to show you guys sort of the difference, I tried to stand in pretty much the exact same spot and use the same lens, which is a 50mm 1.8 lens. That's the difference between the two images. This is straight out of camera, and then this is edited. Woo! I'm sitting here waving my hands, but images will be covering my hands. Yeah, that's that. Hopefully that sort of shows you the difference. So that's a big price jump. When should you consider getting a full frame camera instead of a cropped frame camera as your first camera? I personally started out with a crop sensor camera. My first DSLR camera was a Nikon D3200. I got it when I was 14 years old. I still have it, but I haven't used it for any professional reasons since I upgraded to a full frame camera. Do you like shooting in low light? If you're someone who's like, oh my god, I love Brandon Wolfel, because a lot of people love him right now, and you want to be taking those types of pictures, might want to consider using a full frame camera. So let's say you have two 24 megapixel cameras, and one of them's full frame and one of them is cropped frame. The pixels on the full frame camera are going to be larger, which means that they can let in more light. Are you 100% sure that you're going to stick with photography? Because if so, at some point, you're probably going to want to upgrade to a full frame camera. So if you're like someone who's a student and you've been renting a camera from your school for years, yeah, go ahead, save up, buy the full frame camera, because otherwise you're kind of wasting your money buying the crop sensor camera. Last reason is if you just have extra money. Like, I'm not gonna judge you if you just have $2,000 extra sitting around and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, then yeah, go ahead, buy the full frame camera. But if you're new to photography or like you only have the money for a cropped sensor camera right now, buy the cropped sensor camera and don't let anyone talk down to you because you only have a cropped sensor camera. Don't let anyone be like, oh, like that's a beginner camera, you're not a real photographer. You can totally start up a business, you can totally make money with a cropped sensor camera and save up to buy a full frame someday if that's what you want. And I'll talk about some ways you can get cheaper equipment a little bit later in this video as well. The next segment of this video is what brand should I buy? The main battle is Team Canon versus Team Nikon. There's also tons of other brands. There's Fuji, there's Sony, I'm totally blanking on everything else. You can't just look at one brand as a whole and be like, this is the best camera brand. I'm just going to talk about Canon versus Nikon because those are kind of the two big guys in the league right now. And that doesn't mean that any of the other brands don't produce good cameras. I also just don't know as much about other brands. So Canon versus Nikon. What do I have? I have both. So right now, I am working with a Nikon D750 and a Canon 6D Mark II. I started out working with the Nikon D3200. Used that, loved it for 5 years, still have it. I just don't bring it with me to school because like I said, I'm not using it in any professional situation. And then I upgraded about almost a year ago to a Nikon D750. Absolutely love it, but I kind of just wanted some versatility. And I know I'm going to be doing a lot of video work in my junior year of college, and I had the capability at the time. So I also went ahead and bought the Canon 6D Mark II, and that is actually what I'm filming on right now. It has this really cool flip around screen so I can see what I look like. I can make sure I'm in focus while I'm filming. Super great. And I love both of them. Like I don't really have any complaints between the two of them. Why did I buy Nikon in the first place instead of Canon? I bought Nikon in the first place because at the time, all the professional photographers I knew were using Nikon, and I wanted to have the option to share and swap lenses with them, and I wanted to have something that if I had any questions about my equipment, I could ask the people around me questions about it. Nowadays, it does seem like I know more people who use Canon. That's not to say that Canon is better. That's just to say that right now, right here at my school, I know more people who use Canon. So how exactly should you pick between the brands? You kind of have to compare models of cameras versus the actual brands. Set a budget for yourself pretty much and look at each camera from each brand that's in your price range and compare the specs. Think about what you want to do. Do you just want to take portraits? Do you want to take sports photos, in which case you need to be looking at the camera's frames per second capability when you're like doing bursts, little camera bursts. Do you also want to do video? Canons generally, this is like a broad statement, They are known to have better autofocus in terms of video, and they also do manufacture lenses that are specifically made for video, versus Nikon's entry-level DSLR cameras sometimes have better specs compared to the Canon models of similar prices. And just to say, like, in terms of like better specs, like they're able to fire off more frames per second, or they have higher megapixels. You really just need to be thinking about what you personally want out of a camera, whether that's lots of megapixels, fast shutter speed, really fast autofocus, just for the sake of being able to do so, and just kind of to show that there's not a huge difference between the two cameras. I'm going to pop up on the screen two images. One was taken on my Nikon and one was taken on my Canon, both using a 50mm 1.8 lens and both using the exact same settings. So I tried to make the images as similar as possible, but it's not possible to get the exact same image. This is straight out of camera right now, just saving the raw file as a JPEG out of Lightroom and popping it up on the screen. And then this is what the image looks like after it's been edited using the exact same settings in Lightroom. Now that we've talked about the difference or non-difference between Nikon and Canon, I'm going to give my personal recommendations from both brands, and I'm going to run through this sort of quickly. If you're feeling lost, I am going to put links to these cameras in the description box down below, and I am also going to make a blog post that has all the pictures that I've shown during this video and all the links that I'm putting in the description box down below. Disclaimer, and I'll put the same disclaimer in the description box. All of these links are Amazon affiliate links, which means they link to Amazon, and if you do buy from Amazon using the link in the description box, I get a really small percentage, but it doesn't affect the price of the item at all, nothing like that. Same price, but if you find a better deal somewhere else, go buy it there by all means, like save yourself some coin. Yeah, so from Nikon, in terms of a cropped sensor camera, I would recommend the Nikon Z3-400. It's gonna run you about $500 with a kit lens. Most crop sensor cameras come with a kit lens. And I'm saying about for all the prices because prices do change, sales happen, different stores have different prices. This is the newer version of the Nikon D3200. I loved that camera and still love it. Still really happy that that was the first camera I ever bought. But if you're gonna go out and buy one today, then go out and buy the Nikon Z3-400 if that's the price range and the sensor size that you would like to work with. If you would like to buy a full frame Nikon, and I'm looking down at a piece of paper that has like prices and stuff on it, so I keep looking down, I recommend the Nikon D750. This is not the cheapest full frame camera that you can get. It's a jump up from the Nikon D610, which is what they call, I think it's their entry level full frame camera, and the Nikon D750 is the advanced entry. This camera is known for being really great in low light, and I personally love it. It's what I use, that's why I'm recommending it. My personal opinion is if you're gonna drop $1,500 on a camera, you might as well spend some extra time, save up an extra $300, and get something that has even better tech specs and better features on it. So this camera will run you about $1,800 for just the body, and I will talk about lenses in just a minute. From Canon, in terms of entry-level crop sensor cameras, I would recommend the Canon Rebel T6i or something from the Canon Rebel I series. I believe the Canon T6i is the newest version, and it's going to run you $700 with the kit lens. The I series, I think they all have, or like all the recent ones have like flip around screens, so it's great if you want to vlog or take selfies. If you really want to work with a video, or you want something that's a little nicer than a Canon T6i, something from the Canon Rebel series, I would recommend a Canon 80D. This is still a crop sensor camera, but they're particularly known for being great for video or people who are wanting to start out with video. this is going to run you $1,100 roughly for just the body. And I've never used the Canon 80D. However, before I got my own Canon, I was renting a Canon 70D through my school for quite some time. And that's one of the driving factors that led me to be like, okay, I want my own Canon camera for when I'm doing video. And in terms of full frame from Canon, obviously, I'm going to recommend the Canon 6D Mark II, which is going to run you about $1,900 for just the body. I have owned the Canon 6D Mark II since November of 2017, and it's now January. So far, absolutely love it. Have used it for every single one of my videos that I've made since then, and I think it's a great camera. Yeah, so those are my 5 camera recommendations. If you were feeling really lost after everything else, hopefully one of those jumps out to you and you can be like, yeah, that's the one I want. Thank you so much. What lens should I buy? This one's easy. Hands down, 50mm 1.8 lens. I'm not really gonna not even hands down, but if you're someone who's wanting to do portraits or landscapes, anything like that, this is such a great lens, and I'm gonna tell you why. It's a pretty versatile focal length, so it's 50mm. It's a prime lens, which means you can't change the focal length or change the zoom of the lens, but it's wide enough that you can normally get a decent amount of stuff in your photo, but it's like zoomed in enough that it's great for portraits. And it opens up really wide. This is the lens. It opens up to 1.8. That's aperture, which we'll talk more about in the next video. But basically it can let a lot of light in and give you a really, really shallow depth of field. Which, if you're like, what the heck does that mean? That's like when you see those pictures and the background's all soft and blurry, they're shot with a shallow depth of field. The Nikon version of this lens is about $215, and the Canon version is $125. This is the only lens that I have for both my Canon and my Nikon because I just love it, and I think that everyone should have one in their collection. That's honestly, that's my one lens recommendation for beginners. I don't think there's anything in that price range that's going to give you comparable quality in terms of sharpness, autofocus, anything like that. Now I'm going to talk about ways you can save money when you're buying camera equipment, because this stuff gets expensive. You can get an older model. You can get a camera that's not the most current model. Sometimes you can still buy them on Amazon or through an official retailer. So you could get it used on eBay, or you could even get the most current model used on eBay. Sometimes people buy stuff and they right away resell it. Or you can get certified refurbished equipment, which normally will knock like $100 or $200 off the price of the equipment. Something was wrong with it and it was fixed by the manufacturer and it's certified to be in perfect working condition. Or you can take part in a rent-to-own program. I don't have any that I'd personally recommend because I have never used a rent-to-own program and I don't want to tell anyone to go use one if I don't know anything about it. But rent-to-own basically means you go in, you rent the camera, but the money that you use to rent the camera goes towards your purchase of the actual camera, if that makes sense. If you're a student, check out your college and see if there's options for you to rent a camera. All sorts of great options. Just to wrap this up, some other stuff that you definitely need or that I would definitely recommend. Lots of SD cards. Those are these little guys right here. I personally recommend getting a 32GB Class 10 SD card. Class 10 just means it's highest in class in terms of like speed, both being recorded from the camera and transferring to your computer. And 32GB I just think is great size to have. You can always go bigger. Sometimes like the really, really big SD cards aren't as stable and are more likely to get corrupted. I personally use one from SanDisk. You can get them in packs of 2, packs of 3, packs of 4. I'm gonna link that down below. Nothing wrong with lots of other brands. That's just what I've been using and it's what's always worked for me. I think right now I have like 4 or 5 of those guys just flitting around. You never want to be on a shoot and run out of storage, so that's why you get 32 gigabyte and you have a backup. In terms of being on a shoot, extra battery is always a great idea. Having an extra battery and having it charged with you is always nice, especially if you're shooting in extreme conditions, like really cold, your battery might die quicker. It's just a good idea to have an extra battery. Back to storage, some sort of external storage plan, whether that be an actual hard drive or a cloud subscription to something like Dropbox or iCloud. You just want somewhere to put and back up your photos. You don't want to lose your photos, and you also don't want to crash your computer by having hundreds of gigabytes of photos on your computer. Lastly, if you're shooting portraits, I'd really recommend getting a reflector. It's literally just like a big shiny disc, and you hold it under someone's eyes and it literally just reflects light up. This is great for like if you're shooting backlit portraits, you can still reflect light into their face and you get that like pretty like from behind glow, but their eyes are also lit up, or it just keeps shadows, unflattering shadows from being on the face. They're like $10, $15, $20 depending on which one you get. I'll put the one that I own down in the description box. I think that's everything that I have to say in terms of what camera should a beginner buy. I hope this was helpful. I hope if you're watching this and you like really wanted to know what camera to buy, you have some sense of an idea, or you're like you at least know what to look for. If you enjoyed this video and you want to watch the next parts of this series, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to me. Definitely leave me a thumbs up. Please leave me a comment with any questions that you have. I'm more than happy to answer them. And that's it. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!